Welcome to our video tutorial on how to use the new PAMF Field Maps app. Beginning in summer of 2025, PAMF participants can use an ArcGIS Field Maps application to assist in PAMF data collection. This app, which can be downloaded for Android and Apple devices, replaces the need for a GPS or other smartphone app to map the boundaries of your management unit or collect the latitude and longitude of your monitoring quadrats. If you use this app, you will still need to follow and understand all the instructions in the enrollment and monitoring sections of the PAMF participant guide, as all of this information still applies to the data collected in the app. It is just an alternative to using the web hub to submit some of your PAMF data. So, what does the app do? This Field Maps app allows you to collect and submit enrollment and monitoring data from your mobile device without using the PAMF web hub. It's important to note that you will still need a web hub account and you will need to submit your management report data through the web hub. Also, there is a lag between data entry in the app and when it appears in the web hub. The app does not directly connect to the web hub, and the data you collect in the app will not be reflected in the web hub until August of the upcoming PAMF cycle. So, say you monitor in July of 2025, it will appear in August of 2025 in the web hub. To get started with the app, you will need both a PAMF web hub account and an ArcGIS Online account with collector privileges. Don't have an ArcGIS account? You can request a free community account. PAMF offers free access upon request by granting a community account to a limited number of eligible organizations. Visit the PAMF participant guide to find links to sign up for the app or for a free community account. You can find the guide on the web hub or by scanning this QR code on the side. We are asking PAMF users to sign up using a form so we can link your web hub accounts and ArcGIS accounts appropriately. You will be given access to the PAMF ArcGIS Online group, which will allow you to use the PAMF app. In the participant guide, you will also find step-by-step guides for using the app, as well as cheat sheets to the common actions that you will need to take. If you have existing management units, or MUs for short, that are already in the web hub and you'd like us to add them to the app, let us know by March 7th of the current year you'd like to monitor. Otherwise, you will not be able to access your existing MUs that are in the web hub within the app. You can only add new MUs or monitor those new MUs. We limit the time that folks have to add existing units because this process is kind of complicated on the back end, and we want to limit this to happening just once a year. Okay, our first step is to open up the Field Maps app. So you'll want to have this downloaded on your phone or tablet. I'm using the Android version, so this might look slightly different in the iPhone or iPad version, but not a whole lot different. So we're going to open up Field Maps, and the first thing we want to do is sign in with ArcGIS Online. So you will just sign in using your organizational account or your PAMF community account. Now, after we've signed in, we will have all of our different groups that you might be a part of, but the one that we are interested in is the Phragmites Adaptive Management Framework. So we'll go to that group, and then we have the PAMF for Field Maps map or app. All right, so that brings us to our map. One of the optional things that I would recommend doing, that if you are out in the field and you don't have very good cell phone service, or you know you're not going to have any cell phone service whatsoever, is download an offline area or an offline map that will have all the things you need in it to do your work, and you don't have to worry about not being able to see the aerial imagery or the different polygons and shapes that are recorded in the app out in the field. So if you want to do that, you go back to where there are the three dots next to PAMF for Field Maps, and then you can add an offline area. So the way that this works is that there's a section that says level of detail down here at the bottom, and you can basically change how much map you want to download at a time. So right now it's set at a very small level, at like the room level within a building. So this is going to give us a very tiny map area to download. But you can see it goes all the way from room up to world. So for example, if we look at the building level and we zoom out, this rectangle, this white rectangle, is going to show you how much of the map is going to be downloaded in your offline area. So you can adjust this to however much you want. It is going to change how big the file is on your phone and how long it takes to download. So I'm just, for now, going to go to the rooms level. And then as you move around on the map, this is, where you're going to download. So we'll just focus on my area here. And then you just say download area. It'll give you a progress bar, and your area will be available when you need it. You can have multiple areas downloaded. So if you're visiting, different parts of the state or county to do your PAMF monitoring, you can download maps for all those areas. It's just going to use up more space on your device. So I would recommend doing this before you go out in the field, obviously. So when you still have good access to Wi-Fi or really strong cell phone service to download these areas. Okay, so here we are in the app, and before we try to enroll our monitor and management unit, let's go over some of the basic app features and the 5 possible layers that you can view within the app. So here we've got a big yellow polygon that is our management unit. And if we wanted to make sure that's what it was, we could go up to the 3 dots in the upper right corner. We can select the legend, and this will tell us what everything is that we are seeing. So if you want to turn on and off different layers, also in the upper right is this layers button, and you can see all the different layers. So first, as I mentioned, the big yellow polygon is the polygon layer containing your management unit. So that's this Enroll management unit, which you can turn on and off. You'll see that there's also suggested monitoring locations. These are the red dots. And these are the 5 randomly generated points per MU where it's suggested that you should place your monitoring quadrats. So this is where the app will generate them for you, which I'm going to talk about in the next tutorial on enrollment. But these could also be the monitoring locations that were generated by the web hub if you chose to have your unit brought in from the web hub to the app. And these locations are just suggestions. You don't have to use them, but feel free to establish your own locations based on the instructions in the participant guide. So this layer can't actually be edited by the user. To put in your quadrat data, we'll use another layer that I'll show you in a second. You'll see this big red line going through the dots is the suggested transect. So that's just the line where the dots fall along. So this is the suggested transect if you had one generated for you by the app, which I'll talk about in enrollment. And again, this layer is not editable by the user. All right, so let's go back to our layers. We're going to turn on the user monitoring locations and transects real quick. Now you can see that we've got one black dot has appeared. So this is the user generated quadrat data. You should be also generating 5 of these. I just have 1 as an example here. But this is where you're going to create your points to submit your quadrat data for monitoring. So your points may or may not line up with the suggested monitoring locations. And this is just like it is in the web hub. If you go to a point, there's not Phragmites there, or you have to adjust your locations for some reason, it's going to be exactly like the web hub. You can make your own location. So yeah, follow the instructions of the participant guide to decide where to put these dots. And then we don't actually have one of these for this site, but if we had wanted to, when enrolling this MU in the app, you could have created a custom transect. So if you were enrolling a site in an area where you were going to be offline or have really bad cell service, you could just basically draw your own transect. And so since this one has been automatically generated for us, we don't need to draw a second one. You do not need to create your own transect if there is already one here for you. So if we had created our own transect, there would be a black line here, and it would depend on where you wanted to draw it. But since we already have this red line that is the suggested transect, we don't need a second one. Let's see, what else have we got in the app? So if you go back up to the three dots, you have the ability to change the base map or the background map if you would like. You can view bookmarks, which is just different areas of the map that you would like to save. I already mentioned the legend. You can mark up the map with marks to indicate different things, and you can measure different things within the map, and you can share the map. And these are just the basic overview of how the app looks. So let's say you want to enroll a new management unit. As in the PAMF Web Hub, all the app data that you collect is going to revolve around the establishment of a management unit, which in this app is represented by the yellow polygons. So establishing the MU must happen before any other data collection can occur. The polygon will serve as the repository for your associated monitoring records. So if we want to draw the boundary of our management unit, that's the first step. You can either draw it manually by looking at the aerial imagery in the map, or you can stream your location, which is basically having the app draw where you're walking, so you can walk around the perimeter of your site and make the boundaries that way. So first I'll show you how to draw it manually, and then I'll show you how to do it by streaming. So here we are on our map. You press the big blue button down in the lower right corner, scroll to Enroll Management Unit, and you'll see by moving the map around, we are moving a little cursor around, and that will designate where we can lay down points. So you can zoom wherever you feel like it to make a location. Let's just make it in the grass over here. So you can add a point wherever the cursor is, then you'll see it'll just start drawing. So we'll go to our next spot, add a point, add a point, add a point, add a point. So a very simple management unit. And then from there, you don't have to click anything else up there to finalize it. You just start filling out the form. So next I'll show you how to stream a location. All right, so when you're streaming, you want to make sure that you have high GPS accuracy. That is a low number up by the GPS accuracy in the upper part of the screen. And then you're going to go to Enroll Management Unit, click on the three dots on the side, and then start streaming. So you're just going to start walking, and as you walk, points will be laid down behind you that will designate where your management unit is going to be. So we'll just walk around. Obviously, this is an example in a parking lot, but you will want to do this around the boundary of where you want your management unit to be. And when we stop, and it's looking pretty good, you just press stop streaming, and we're all set. Then you can fill out the rest of the form. Now that we have our management unit boundary drawn, I'm just going to go with the one that I drew manually. We can fill out our form just as you would on the PAMF Web Hub. So you will come up with a unique management unit name. I'm just going to call this one Test Grass. And it will automatically calculate your site area in acres. It'll ask you all the same questions that there are on the Web Hub. So you fill these out as normal. I'm just going to skip past these ones for now. I'll say this is a dry site. I cannot control the water. And then you will fill out the questions about different gradients at the site. So it works the same as it does on the Web Hub, where if you say, no, there is not a stem density gradient, then a new question will pop up and it will ask you, well, okay, there's not a stem density gradient, but is there a hydrology gradient? You could say no, and then again, it'll pop up with a new question. Please select the direction for the longest possible transect across the MU. So in this case, our management unit is pretty long north-south, so we'll go with that. So this is an important difference between the Web Hub and this app. Is there's a question, how are your transects and quadrats being generated? So you can either choose, I have a good online coverage or reception and want my transects and quadrats generated on the fly, or I am working in an offline area generating my own transects and quadrats. So this is where you'll have to make a decision about how good your cell coverage is. And if it's good, then definitely select this first option. And then within less than 10 minutes, the app will generate a transect and all of the suggested monitoring locations for you. And in this case, it might not appear automatically on the map. You might have to refresh the map or close the app and reopen it, but it will appear in a couple of minutes. But if you are working offline or just have really bad coverage, I would select this, and I'll show you how to make a custom transect. So when we get to this question about selecting the habitat type that most closely resembles that of your MU, you can check all that apply, but it's not quite like a normal check form. Say that our MU is both a urban and developed site and a roadway and ditch. If we want to put that in, we can put in urban and developed, and we'll see that that appears down in the selected habitats section below. And then we will select roadway and ditch, and then it will appear. So notice that it says down here, the selected habitat types will be listed below. If you accidentally click a habitat type you don't want, just click the clear selection and start over. So say we want to clear the selection, it's actually a urban developed in a wetland. We can do that instead. Okay, has it been treated within the past 5 years? No. Is herbicide? Sure. Okay, another important difference between the Web Hub and this app is you will need to put in the email address associated with your PAMF Web Hub account. So that way we can link this site to the PAMF Web Hub. And it'll make our lives a lot easier than trying to figure out who this belongs to. So I will just put in PAMF@glc.org. And then it'll ask you, just like on the Web Hub, for if you want to allow your MU on a Great Lakes wide map. So when it's on the Web Hub, it will appear on the map in the Web Hub. And then the last one is this included in the Active Adaptive Management Program or AMP? So this is whether you received any AMP grant funding. I have not, so I will put no. And then you can add any notes that you would like. And then you can also use the Take Photo button up at the top of this form, or the Attach button, to submit up to 3 photos. So it's just like the Web Hub. Please don't submit any more than 3 photos because that's all we will be able to add to the Web Hub. And then there's a section called Photo Notes. So if you want to add any notes about your photos specifically, you can add those here. So if you want to take a photo, you go all the way back up. You could click Take a Photo, or use the attachments to add a photo that you've already taken. I would recommend saving your whole form first before taking a photo or adding a photo, because in some cases when your reception is bad out in the field, if you try to upload a photo and it fails, sometimes this form can get lost. So I would recommend saving it. You do that by going all the way back up to the top, and where there's a check mark up at the top, click that. It'll save your site, and then you can then edit that site by clicking the little pencil button down here, and then you can add photos or attachments. It's probably the best way to go about doing that, just so you don't lose your form data. So if we click off of our management unit, the details about it go away, but if you want the details to come back, you can click on it, It'll get highlighted, and then you can see the information that you've entered. You can edit the form as I showed you. You can also click on this 3 dots in the bottom, get directions to it if you would like, or to favorite it or delete it. And then maybe most importantly is this little link button. And this will show you any associated monitoring records with this management unit. So this is why we had to lay down our management unit polygon first, so that we can add monitoring records to it. So we will do that after we draw our custom transects. All right, let's say that we have a irregularly shaped management unit and we need to have a transect that is going to work for this management unit. So as you can see, this is a weird kind of L shape, and having a standard north-south or east-west transect is not going to represent this unit very well. And so we have some options of how to deal with this. When you're in your Enroll Management Unit form, you can go down to the questions about gradients. So for the question, is there a gradient of stem density throughout the management unit? If so, note the direction. You will say no. If there is a gradient in the hydrology of your MU, again, say no. And then it will pop up this last question about, please select the direction for the longest possible transect across your MU. And in this case, we will say that we have an irregularly shaped MU. And then we have a couple options from here of what to do. So for the question, how are your transects and quadrats being generated? You can either say that you have good online coverage and you want your transects and quadrats generated on the fly. And because you chose I have an irregularly shaped MU, there will be an algorithm that tries to fit a line that kind of fits along that L shape. And when you see that, if it looks good, then you're all set and you're ready to go. However, if you think that it does not look very great, we can create our own transect to kind of make up for that. And I'll show you how to do that in a second. But you could also say, I am working in an offline area, generating my own transects and quadrats. So you can either say that whether you want to just draw your own just because, or you truly are offline and generating your own transects and quadrats. So let's show you how to draw your own transect. I'm going to pop out of this menu here, and then we will go to the plus sign down in the corner, and we will select transects. And then when you do that, it's going to just automatically create a point. I will show you how to delete that in a second. So just like when you're creating your management unit, you have the option of streaming, but I would really recommend that you don't do that and that you draw this line manually, because we want it to be as kind of simple as possible. So let's try to make a simple line that follows our management unit boundaries. So we'll add a point, and add a point. So that way we've got a transect that kind of follows the length of our management unit. If we want to get rid of that first point, you can click on it and then select the overflow menu and say delete the selected point. So you can do that too when you're drawing your management unit. You can delete points that way if you accidentally make one where you don't want to. So here's our transect. If we look at the transect form, there's a couple things here. If you are unsure on how to properly draw your transect, please refer to our standard operating procedures. So that will give you a little link to basically what I'm telling you here and give you some examples of how to draw these transects in which situations. It also tells you reasons why you should manually draw your own transect. Again, if you're working in an offline area, don't have good data connection, you'll need to draw your own transect. Or if you your management unit is in a regular polygon, the transect that you did have generated for you just does not look good enough. So you wanted to accurately reflect the shape of your MU by drawing your own transect. In this case, there's a question down here, how are you drawing your transects? And you have the options, I am working offline manually drawing my own transect, or I need to manually draw my own transect because my management unit is in a regular polygon. So in some cases, both of these could be true, but I am going to say I'm doing it because it's an irregularly shaped polygon. And then we just hit the check in the corner, and we've got our transect. And say that you had generated a transect automatically for this, and it did look good. There's no reason for you to make a second transect. It'll just create a source of confusion for everybody. So let's go back to our original polygon that we had down here that we were looking at before, and say that, so this is a pretty simple one. And in our enrollment form, we had noted that the transect should be a north-south transect. But let's say that we were offline, and so we need to draw a custom transect for this one as well. So we will go to the transects, and then we will start adding our points. And since this is just a simple north-south transect, we will just make a single line with a single endpoint and a single start point, add the points, and we just have our very simple line. I would recommend that if you said that you had a north-south one, or an east-west one, or, north, west, southeast, just draw a simple line as straight as you can, following those directions. So in this case, we'll go down and say we were just working offline to manually draw this transect. And then click the OK button up at the top. And now you can see we have our two transects for our two different types of management units. And again, these transects are there for your reference, but also they will get uploaded to the PAMF web hub later on. So it's important that every management unit has a transect. And also, this is where the line where you will be trying to place your quadrats along when you are monitoring. But the monitoring points don't necessarily have to fall along this transect. You'll need to follow the participant guide to make sure that you are putting them in the correct place, because you want to make sure that your quadrat always has live Phragmites in it, unless there's absolutely no Phragmites left in the management unit. But yeah, make sure you follow the participant guide rather than blindly following along these transects. Now that we have our management unit enrolled and we have our transect, which again, in this case, we have our custom transect, but we could have also had one generated for us, which would have resulted in a red line instead of a black line. It also would have generated some suggested monitoring locations for us, but since we have generated a custom transect, we do not have suggested monitoring locations. So we ideally would be putting these monitoring locations along this transect, but follow the guides in the participant guide for more detailed instructions on how to create quadrat points, because you definitely want to have Phragmites within your quadrat. Before we can put down any quadrat points, we need to add a monitoring record. You cannot put down quadrat points first. To do this, we will just click on our management unit, so it's highlighted, go down to the link button, and then it'll show our monitoring records, which we have none yet, but we will add one. And it'll show the date. It'll autocomplete a bunch of things, and then you will put in the person name completing the form. This is just like filling out a monitoring report in the web hub. All right. Now it's going to ask you the basic web hub questions like, has Phragmites been eradicated? We'll keep it at no. Percent establishment, high. Has Phragmites spread from your MU? So this is a question that you will only answer after the first year. We don't know. We just enrolled this site, so we will say not applicable. Is EFB or European frogbit present at this site? We'll say no, and then you put any additional notes. And then you can add any photos or attachments, or attach a photo. Again, please submit only up to 3 photos, since that is all we can fit in the web hub. And then add any photo notes you wish at the bottom about your photos. So again, those take photos and attach are up at the top of the form. And when we're done, we will click the checkbox. And we have all of the data associated with the entire management unit now. Now that we have our monitoring report that has these basic questions about the whole MU, we can add our Quadrat data. So ideally, we would be wandering along this transect and getting our random points this way, following the instructions in the participant guide. And let's just assume that our points actually fall along the transect, which is an ideal situation. And then we click on the blue button, and we will add our points where we are. And this cursor will actually follow you along in the field, but I'm technically in my office right now, so I'm moving the map around to put down my points. But we'll add a quadrat, and if you need to move the point, you can move this around and update the point. Again, you can take photos, so you can submit 2 photos per quadrat, and you will be collecting data for all 5 quadrats. So please don't submit data for 2 quadrats, don't submit data for 6 quadrats. It must be 5 quadrats following the participant guide. It'll have some automatic information that's plugged in there. Let's see, the quadrat number. This is our first one, so we will say Q1. And we will note the number of live stems within our quadrat. We'll say there are 3. And then, just like in the web hub, you will need to put in the diameters for those stems. And then it'll ask you about stress on the majority of live Phragmites in the quadrat. Sure, we will say yes, there is stress. If you say yes, additional questions will appear. Is it environmental stress, insect, pathogen? So let's just say some sort of form of environmental stress. And what monitoring location is used for the report. So here's where you can either say that the PAMF app had generated your quadrat, but in this case we used a custom transect and a custom location, so we will say our personal monitoring location that we have made up following the participant guide. So that's the entire form for the quadrat. We'll click the check, and we have our quadrat. So we will just keep doing that until we have 5 quadrats monitored. One important thing that I forgot to mention about adding your quadrat data is that, say you are putting in data for your quadrat and there are 0 live stems. So just as mentioned in the participant guide, you should always be going to a area that has live Phragmites to get your data, and you should only be submitting 0 stem counts if you have already fit all of the living Phragmites in your quadrats already, and there's literally no other Phragmites to count. So let's say that is the case. Say we've got, we're on quadrat number 3, we've fit all of the live Phragmites that we could find in our first 2 quadrats, but now there are truly no other stems that we can count, and so we have a live stem count of 0 for this quadrat. And then there's a question, is there visible stress on the majority of live Phragmites in the quadrat? Well, there is no live Phragmites. So for this question, you will just simply put NA. So we have our 5 quadrats here, and that is our goal. And again, they don't have to be perfectly on this transect line. You just follow the instructions in the participant guide about where to place these quadrats. And another thing that I wanted to note that's really important is that these quadrat points must be within the boundaries of the management unit polygon. If the point is, for instance, let's say you put a point, just outside of it, it is going to give you some warnings. You need to fill out a monitoring report. It's just not going to necessarily let you do this because it can't pull in a management unit ID. It can't pull in a monitoring report ID. It is just going to be generally unhappy with you. So you must put the points within the management unit boundaries. So let's say we want to edit or delete our features in some way. So this basic principle applies to whether you're working with a management unit polygon or a transect or a point. So basically you click on the thing that you want to edit or delete. Let's say we want to edit the boundary of our management unit. I would only recommend doing this if it has not yet been uploaded to the web hub. Please don't edit your management unit boundaries if they are already submitted to the web hub. All right, well, we've clicked on it. We will now click on the pencil button, and it shows all of the different points that make up our polygon. And so we could, at this point, add a point wherever our cursor is if we clicked add a point. So that would expand it. Now see that white dot is highlighted. Say we did not actually want that. We can select the 3 dots here and then delete that point. You can also update a point. So that's basically moving where it is to wherever your cursor is. So if we click on like this middle point, for example, and then we move our cursor over here and click update point, it'll fill in that whole zone. So we can delete points as well by selecting it, delete the point, and we can, in this way, totally change the shape of our management unit. And when you're done, you just press the checkbox. So that is how we edit the shape of a polygon. Let's say we want to delete this altogether because, well, for example, this is a test unit. And so we want to make sure that all of our test data is deleted before the data is uploaded to the web hub. So if we want to delete everything, we need to delete everything associated with the site. So we'll select the site and go to the overflow and delete it. And same with our transect. Click on that and delete it. If you had transects generated for you and quadrats generated for you, you will not be able to delete these, but that's okay. No problem. Just as long as the management unit itself is gone and any user-created data, such as user transects, user management units, and user quadrats, those should all be deleted. Before we end, I quickly want to go over data management in the app. First, I want to bring your attention to the app's data privacy notice. This can be found in the participant guide in any of the sign-up forms that you might use for the app. So the notice reads, due to the limitations of ArcGIS Online, data shared in the PAMF app will be visible to other users of the PAMF app to allow flexibility in how teams manage their data and to accommodate import of MUs from the web hub. By using the app, you acknowledge that you will only edit the data of MUs belonging to you and that your data may be visible to others accepted into the private PAMF ArcGIS Online group. Data will be backed up daily during the field season to prevent data loss. If you have data privacy concerns, please submit all reports through the PAMF web hub instead of the app. So this means that if you have one person create a management unit for you, say a member of the PAMF staff, you can still edit that management unit yourself and monitor it if you would like. So no one owns a particular management unit. You can edit a management unit created by somebody else in your team, and vice versa. The second point here is that if you decide to enroll a new MU in the app, you will also need to use the app to submit your monitoring data for the MU for that first year. This is because the data will not be uploaded to the Web Hub until August. Lastly, all enrollment and monitoring data must be submitted to the PAMF Field Maps app prior to August 1st each year. There are no exceptions to this. We sometimes let folks go a little longer with submitting their reports to the Web Hub, but we can't allow that for the app since we have to transfer the data over to the Web Hub as soon as monitoring season is over. So if you do not submit data by August 1st, your data will not be transferred. If you need to make any changes to your enrollment or monitoring form, please edit them before August 1st as well. And this is also a good time to delete any test management units that you may have made. So that's it for this video tutorial. Hopefully you find the PAMF app helpful in the field. If you want more information about how to use the app, first check out the participant guide and check out the cheat sheets that are in there, or contact us at pamf@glc.org. Happy PAMFing!